This podcast is brought to you by School Device Coverage, the #1 insurer of school devices in America. To learn more, visit schooldevicecoverage.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Risky Business. I'm Kathy Kaler.
And I'm Bliss Landon.
Welcome to our show.
Yes, welcome. Here we are again.
We are so happy, always happy about our shows because we have such great people.
We do. And it's just, it's just so inspiring and energizing. And I don't know.
We get to learn stories.
Exactly.
And I hear them.
And I love hearing about other people and their stories. And I just think it's fun. It's energizing. It's informative. I feel like I'm a better person after we have a day like this doing these podcasts.
And do you go home and tell your kids, hey, I had so-and-so on my show?
Absolutely.
I do too. And I keep thinking half the time they're like, oh, brother. But I feel like this is so important because of what we're learning.
Yes.
And whoever our guest may be, if they have, discovered something or created or founded, that story is how something started. And that's the part I think kids are so needing to hear because everything is just kind of laid out.
Well, kids and adults too. I mean, you may have been a mom for, the last 20 years, and now you get to do something for yourself. And what's that going to be? You might be changing your whole direction in life, and you have to hear other people's stories to see what inspires you and what interests you to take your life to the next level or just do something different. I don't know. Anyway, our next guest that we have today, she is very inspiring. She's a wonderful woman, entrepreneur. Talk about stories. She has some great stories, and she's great. So introduce her, Kath.
I will.
Let's get on this.
Well, we are very, very happy to have joining us today Vicki Unger. She's a chapter chair from Women's Presidents Organization, which is a group you have been telling me about that you go to, and I'm very curious.
Yes.
So we're very excited to have you here with us today, Vicki. Welcome to Risky Business.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Hi, Vicki.
Hi, Bliss.
Hi. So Vicki and I have known each other for a while. I was recommended to this WPO group from a friend of mine who's in another chapter of Vicki's. And so, I was a little hesitant at first because I hadn't done it before. I'd been in other groups, but not a women's only about women's, group of, I guess part of the criteria is to be a president of your own company. And so it's a little intimidating because you're with all, a very diverse group of women, and they have various different backgrounds and they're at various levels in their career. But I'll tell you what, it's really inspiring to be with these other women. The business that I've been in insurance has been a very male-dominated industry with shipping insurance anyway. And then now we're doing school device coverage, which you know about, Vicki. And, we deal with a lot of men in the technology part of school districts and what have you. We do come across women, but more men. And so it's nice to go to a place where women can get together, share their experiences, inspire each other to do better. Problems that you might have, you can share that with the group. Yeah. And Vicki leads these, and she's such a great leader because she is so inspiring and has so many great stories. So Vicki, how did you get started with WPO? What made you go into this?
Well, I'm happy to tell you this story, but first of all, I just have to say, Bliss, you definitely held your own and hold your own in the chapter. One of the great things about WPO is it's really a peer-to-peer membership organization, and the level of the members' successes and businesses and just where they stand in the community is very, very high. But Bliss, you are up there with all of your sister chapter members. So
thank you, Vicki. I appreciate
don't
that.
sell yourself short.
No, I feel better about it now, but back when I was, so I had actually taken a little break because I got very busy here and we started this new line of insurance. So I just really didn't have the time, but I really miss the camaraderie. And and then I think because we started this other line of insurance, because the other one I'd been doing for so long, I felt really inspired to get involved again. And Vicki and I stayed in contact on Facebook. And so I said, Vicki, can I please come back to the group? I really miss everybody and I need that inspiration. And I've started this new thing and I have questions and I want to do better. And she's like, yeah, come back. So it was great.
And, well, I think WPO, I'm going to call it WPO. Here's the little reminder because Women Presidents Organization is such a mouthful.
Right.
But I think it really became an indispensable tool for many of the members around the world during this pandemic.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I am going to tell you how I got involved, but then I am happy to back up why I just made that bold statement about how essential I think WPO has been in the last year, and that's based on the members' feedback. But how I got involved is I have been working in the financial services industry for 40 years. I started on Wall Street, very male dominated, very few women. When I crawled out of my diapers onto my first job on Wall Street, I mean, the women were in the secretarial pool.
Right.
But there weren't a lot of professional women and there were no role models. So one of the best pieces of advice someone gave to me way back when was join an organization called the Financial Women's Association, FWA. So I experienced that and I really felt for the first time in my life what it was like to be in a room with professional women who were, moving up the Wall Street ladder primarily. And it was very new back then. So I really loved that. That gave me the first taste. Then through my work, I started working with a lot of women business owners and entrepreneurs. And I really enjoyed that. I think because I have a little bit of a bias being in such a male-dominated industry that I want to do everything I can to support women on Wall Street and throughout the world in any business. So that was part of it. And then just for my own development, I thought, I should put a group together of like-minded women who are dealing with the same kind of clients that I'm dealing with, and maybe we can support each other. So I'm an investment advisor. So I thought, okay, we'll get someone in law and someone in real estate, and basically people who dealt with the same kind of clients, the high net worth individuals that I dealt with. Right. So that was really the predecessor to my joining WPO. I started this informal group. It was based in West LA on the West Side. I live in the South Bay, and a couple of women I know in the South Bay said, I heard what you're doing on the West Side. Can you do one in the South Bay for us? We work down here. So I said, okay. And then the third one sprang up because I was dealing in my business as a financial advisor with a lot of women philanthropists, and they really needed support. They were giving large sums, 6-7-figure donations. Their names were on university walls and hospital walls. They were making very large grants. And it's really hard to give money away wisely. It's really easy to make bad grants. It's really hard to make really good grants and donations. So one of my clients said, I know you deal with a lot of other women like me. Can you put a group together so we can share best practices around philanthropy? So at one point I had 3 groups. This was all just kind of for fun. I wasn't compensated for any of this. 2 of them were sort of networking groups, and the other one was really more along the lines of the WPO sharing best practices. It wasn't a networking, pitching, anything. It was sharing what was your experience like when you gave XYZ institution money? How did you negotiate the terms of your donation? Does your name stay on the wall in perpetuity? What did you write into the contract that you signed with the university? Very specific hands-on things that people just don't know, even when you're giving $1 million away.
Wow.
So at that point, my oldest sister, who's way wiser than I am, said, you've got these three, you're like the person spinning the plates. You got the three plates spinning and your full-time job and 3 children. You need to become a professionally trained facilitator. You obviously like it. You have a knack for it. It comes easily to you, but you don't have any cred. You don't have any street cred. You're just winging it. Why don't you get some professional training? And she said, I really think you should get involved with the Women Presidents Organization.
Oh, so she knew about that.
Oh,
she
wow.
knew about that organization.
She knew about it. And so I interviewed, and turns out 10 years ago, there was one chapter in Los Angeles. It's actually an organization based in New York about 22 years ago. And the second chapter in the country after the first one in New York was in LA. So it's not like we came to LA years later, but there had only been one chapter forever in LA. So 10 years ago, I said, LA's huge, and there's 8 chapters in Manhattan, and then chapters, all over the New York tri-state area and all over the country and all over the world. We're on 6 continents now. How can we only have one chapter in LA? That makes no sense.
No sense.
Wow.
So I raised my hand and said, I'd like to start a chapter on the West Side because my office is in Century City. And that's where I knew most of the clients I was dealing with who I thought could be members, and the people I just knew through my network. And so lo and behold, I filled up that chapter very quickly. And as Bliss knows, one of the smartest things about WPO is that there are no competitors in the same chapter.
Right.
So if you have someone who provides insurance for school devices, there will not be another person who is in that business in your chapter.
Right. Which is nice. And you don't have to worry about that.
You don't have to worry about talking about your competitors. You don't have to worry about, your secret sauce, and everything is done under a real strong cone of confidentiality. We actually sign a confidentiality when you join. Right. So I met someone who was in a business that I already had in my first chapter, and she begged me to start a second chapter because she couldn't be in the first one. And I said, I'll give it a shot, but I don't know if I can find another 20 women who qualify, because the criteria for some is challenging. You have to be the founder, president, CEO. You have to own equity, not 100%, but equity. It really doesn't work for a 1 or 2 person business. I mean, you have to have a certain level of revenues, but you also have a certain number of employees, because we do talk a lot about people. And the biggest challenge is getting people to understand how important the commitment is, because we only meet once a month. It's 2 hours on Zoom, 3 hours when we were meeting in person. But the expectation is that you're going to be at those meetings. Now, obviously, if you have a wedding coming up, or
my mom's birthday.
Your mom's birthday, we're going to give you a pass. Or your client is flying in from Tokyo to meet with you on that day. You're obviously not going to make the meeting, but it sort of has to be sort of an extraordinary event to qualify as an excused absence. We expect our members to be at all the meetings. There's 12 a year. And the way WPO sort of is supposed to work in your life is that it's supposed to be an opportunity for the members to work on the business as opposed to in the business.
Right.
Which means that sometimes you just need to take a little step back. You can't be in the kitchen, even if you're in a food business all day, every day. You need to step back.
Yeah.
So that's a long answer. I hope it wasn't too long-winded, but that's how I got involved with WPO 10 years ago.
Yeah. How many people are in the chapters?
So the chapters are capped at 20. Mm-hmm. Most of the chapters, I think, are more around 15 members. That seems to be a sweet spot. The chapter that Bliss is in has 17 members, and my other chapter right now has 13 members. But both of them have been at 20 for many years. There's an ebb and flow. So first of all, it's an annual commitment. For some people, they join for a year and they say, this is great, but it's really not my thing. I'm not renewing. Fine. Other people move or sell their business. A lot of things interfere, but I have in my original chapter, the other chapter, the first member who joined is still in the chapter. And that's 10 years. So awesome. It's, I think it's like, we want the members to really want to be there. And if you're kind of ambivalent, you're not sure, you're not getting anything out of it, then it's not a good use of your time. So don't do it. We want the ones who are there to be really excited about being there. They're like, I always say it's like, this is really dating me, but remember Can't Miss TV before you could record it and you had to watch those shows on the time that they were airing? Yeah. I kind of feel like, I'd like my meetings to be like that. Like you got to be there because you don't want to miss what's going to happen because something really interesting. And if you just walk away with one idea, one thought, then you got something out of it.
And I was telling Vicki this, I think we had a conversation last week. We're doing a subgroup. So I have a subgroup from the main group that I'm in, the chapter that I'm in, and we meet every other Monday during the day. And that has been really beneficial for me. I feel like I have a little more voice there because there's not so many people, and then we all have similar struggles that we're going through, or one person may have, a certain struggle that I've been through before, or somebody else has been in the group, and we can really help each other, in a very personable manner. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, for me, the subgroup has just been so meaningful. And I feel like I have more of a voice this time around than being in the larger group, because sometimes people have pressing matters and you're like, oh, their concern is way more important than what I have going on. But then you realize that your concerns are very important too. But the subgroup gives you a voice there. And we also, we have a class that we're going to be taking together that's given through Harvard for WPO. And we all agreed that if we didn't have each other to hold each other accountable, we would never do the class. Right. And so we have a homework assignment that's due this next, meeting. And I don't want to let everybody down. And I don't want to be the one that didn't do the homework. So
hold you accountable.
Exactly. So it's really, it's a great just spinoff of, the main chapter. And Vicki and I talked about that. And I'm loving the Zoom aspect of it because I'm not on the West Side. So for me, it's much better time-wise for me to be able to do the Zooms. I know it'll go in person probably eventually, but for me, I've really enjoyed having the Zoom meeting and then having this subgroup. If I had a subgroup that I had to go in person to, I don't think I could do it.
Well, it's so interesting how every chapter is different. There are 144 chapters now, as I mentioned, around the world. And I have an opportunity to talk to all the other chapter chairs. Used to be in person. Now we have Zoom calls just for the chapter chairs because we're like doctors. We have to have ongoing training and certification. So we have continuing ed, and twice a year we get trained because we are professionally trained, paid chapter chairs. And that's a big differentiator with a lot of other membership organizations where the members facilitate the meetings as opposed to having a professional facilitate the meetings. So when I talk to the other chapter chairs from South Africa and Madrid, I mean, it's so much fun. I love the international ones, but also we have a lot of chapters in Canada and New York, and literally all over the world. In South Africa, they meet during business hours once a month, but they meet for like an entire day.
Really?
I mean, they carve out the whole day. They have lunch. They meet the large group. They meet in subgroups. I mean, they really work it.
Wow.
So there's all different levels of commitment. There are also members, and we had 2 in the chapter Bliss that you're in. We had a member who flew once a month from Hawaii to attend our meetings in person in LA, because we do not have a chapter in Hawaii, even though I volunteered. But I don't have any context. I don't have the context. Part of my job is also the recruiting. And, sure, I could have the Hawaii chapter, but I'd have to find the Hawaii women business owners who qualify for membership.
Right.
So I had a member from Hawaii, and we have a member from Atlanta who belongs to 2 chapters because she lives in Atlanta, but her major clients are in Los Angeles. So she said, LA is so different than Atlanta. I really want to have my finger on the pulse of what's going on in LA. So can I join 2 chapters? It's kind of unusual. And we said, okay, if you can show up. And her attendance has been exemplary. Wow. But I agree, the Zoom thing has made it so nice, because in LA, most people, even if they're on the West Side, still had to count for at least 30 minutes, but usually more like 45 minutes to an hour to get from one side of the West Side to the other. So
and me coming from the Valley was over an hour to get there.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it's a lot of travel time. So that is something we're going to have to work out, because I think a lot of people really enjoy the extra 2 hours a month they get by not having to drive to a meeting. But on the other hand, there is something to be said for meeting in person.
Sure.
And I do think that, we miss out. And so maybe we go to a hybrid where we meet in person once a quarter and we meet on Zoom the other 2 months. I think we just have to be creative and think out of the box and think what works best. Because now we have a member in your chapter, Bliss Cheryl, who lives in South Carolina or North Carolina. I can't get them straight. In one of the Carolinas. So,
okay.
So we're in such a changing world right now that I think we just have to adapt.
Exactly.
But that just goes back to the level of commitment. And I was just going to say, in Canada, it is very common for members to fly across Canada, even though there's multiple chapters, but I think they're both sort of on the coast and there's nothing in the middle of Canada. Canada's huge, as you know. So members routinely fly to get to their meetings. They fly in the night before, and I've spoken to them like at conferences or WPO conferences. They say, yeah, I fly in Tuesday night. My meeting's Wednesday. I go home Wednesday night. I mean, it's like a 24-hour commitment, and they accept it because there's nothing else where they live, and they get so much out of the meetings that it's worth making that investment.
Yeah, it's worth it for them.
I was just, I'm getting more and more informed about the meeting that my friend is going to. But
no, you're not going to get any details because she signed that confidentiality agreement.
I can't share any details with you, Kathy.
That's my comment is that, we constantly hear about the lack of women in business. It's better than what you described when you first started. But to me, hearing you two talk about this, it's almost like a comfort level for a woman who may be starting a company, may not be able to join at this moment, but it gives that sense of security that there is a group of women that can be helpful in this journey of starting a business, to just know that that's there, whether they can be part of it at this point or not, that it's just there. I think it's incredible what you've done to expand this and to have it just as a known chapter of this incredible, group. Hats off.
Yeah.
Hats off to you.
Thank you. I know that, you like to talk about risk. And I was thinking about, how does WPO connect with risk. And I think that it's really hard to start a business. And if you look at the statistics, most fail. So I think most of the thought leaders and most successful people in business, men and women, really avail themselves of a lot of different kinds of resources, whether it's coaches, whether it's continuing education, as in the Harvard program that Bliss mentioned, that is actually a specifically designed for WPO member Harvard program. So that's pretty special. Or it's being in a peer-to-peer group that mitigates some of the risk, because you have, as many of my members say, your own board of advisors that you can run things by and hopefully have people say or give you the feedback, ooh, that's tricky terrain. Based on my experience when I did that, this is what happened to me. I got tripped up here. Or, yes, I've done that very same thing in my business, even though I'm in a totally different business than you are. And it really worked well, but I wish I had known XYZ. So you get the XYZ. Yeah. So we're all building on each other's experience.
It's wisdom. I mean, that's what wisdom is you don't, when you unilaterally make a decision and you think you have all the answers, you might not make a great decision. But if you can get the wisdom of other people who've experienced what you're going through right now to better inform yourself on making decisions for the future or whatever you're going through, I mean, you're just so much more equipped to make a better decision on whatever it is you need to make the decision on. But like Vicki said, we experienced that recently where someone had an idea about something she wanted to do in her business, and she got a lot of, whoa, no, don't do that. That would be a mistake. You could do this instead, and gave her options of doing something different than exactly what she was thinking about, just to protect herself. And I thought it was so awesome to watch everybody have these ideas for her. And I think she received it really well. And I don't know exactly what decision she has made. And I'm interested to see how that all plays out. But that's exactly, what it is. It's getting opinions from many different people with many different backgrounds, so that you are informed and you feel really good about deciding on something, I guess is
well. And there's a trust.
Yeah,
there's a trust also that
tremendous trust.
There's
and
respect
trust.
and major respect for these women and their backgrounds and what their responsibilities are and where they come from. And then Vicki is such an amazing leader that she really makes sure that everybody has a voice and everybody contributes, to the fullest of their ability for the group. And so you really feel like you are contributing to other people, which is, that makes you feel great.
Makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
The give back.
Yeah.
Yes. It's all about give and take. And we haven't specifically talked about this, but we've kind of talked around it. Almost every single WPO member has said, and it's like a cliche, but they feel it. It's lonely at the top. Oh. They all have said that at one point or another, because it is lonely at the top. Most of my members have said, I have a lot of friends, but I don't have a lot of friends who are in my shoes, running a business with the stress and the demands that I experience every day. And I have, my accountant and I have my attorneys, but I don't have anywhere where I can just sort of let my hair down and be with people who really understand what I'm going through.
You are so right about that. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And so when you're at the top, there is a lot, and this is just who we're talking to with our TikTok person. When you're at the top, you're at higher risk for people who are trying to knock you down. Mm-hmm. And
you have to be very strong
to be in a group where you feel, like you said, let your hair down and just to take a deep breath. It's pretty extraordinary.
It is.
I think it's a great great organization. I'm not the founder. I wish I had thought of it, but Marcia Firestone gets all the credit for creating WPO. It's very stealth still. In other words, it's really one of the best kept secrets. This is one of my frustrations. I wish I could put billboards all over LA.
I know. I wouldn't have known about it if it weren't for my friend, recommending it to me.
Right.
I had heard of other organizations, but
yes.
This is not the same. It's at a whole different level, and it is a shame because you don't know that it exists to a certain degree.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of a commitment even to sort of onboard, because it's not like just write a check and fill out an application and you're in. We really look at prospective new members in terms of, first of all, will they make the commitment? Will they show up? Will they really be there? Do they have enough to sort of provide the give and take? That doesn't mean they have to have 30 years of experience. We've had some very young members, but they've been through a lot already. So they have a lot to gain from being in the company of other women who have decades of experience, but they also have a great, fresh, new perspective. I mean, we have in my other chapter, a woman who has a branding company. And she, in the course of being a WPO member, she took her company, which she's very young. She felt like her company had to be virtual a few years ago. So she let all her employees work from home. Well, her revenues tanked, and her WPO members said, maybe that's not the best idea, since all of her employees were millennials.
Oh, geez.
And so she wasn't getting any great work product out of them. And so we had a lot of conversations. She said, we think you should bring them back into the office. She brought them back in. The company took off, did great. During the course of that, she had 2 children. And now she's moved her business to another city. I mean, and this is all in the course of, she's been a member for 6 years. She's done so much. And I guarantee you, she got tremendous value out of being WPO because she was so young. But on the other side, she led presentations in our chapter on search engine optimization. And I mean, she's a wizard. And
wow.
And we were like, what? How do you do that? She really taught us a lot about branding and marketing and what's going on, in that space. So it was wonderful to have her in the chapter, even though in terms of years of experience, her bio was very short. She brought a lot of wisdom, and she completely transformed her company. And what we loved about her is that she was always changing things up. Oh, I think it had a lot to do with her age, but she just wasn't fearful of holding on to things. She's like, this doesn't work. She came to the meeting next month and she said, remember that thing we talked about last month? We're not doing that anymore. We're on to this. We're like, wow, the speed with which she changed things up, but her business is doing really well.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Well, you said you wanted billboards. What can we share? Because, there is a lot of privacy to the group, but what can we share that you may direct us to, a website or?
Yes. Well, there is a very robust website. It's womenpresidenceorg.com.
Okay.
womenpresidenceorg.com. And there really is everything you need to know about the Women Presidents Organization on the website. Of course, I am sort of an ambassador for WPO, so I'm happy to talk to any woman who is leading a private company. So again, it's not, she runs a division at CBS. No, CBS is not a private company.
Right.
It has to be a private company. We have all size businesses in WPO, from the smallest revenue, which is $1 million for a service business, up to hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. So there's a huge range of size. she has to really have a desire to be in a space with other women leaders who are all working to take their businesses to the next level of success. Right. And that's what we're looking for. The dues are minimal. That's never a barrier to entry. Mm-hmm. It's really more about time. When you're at this level, and you two both know this, time is scarce. Time is valuable. So, you have to make sure that you're using your time very wisely. And I think this is an investment, much more so in terms of time than the money, in your business to take your business to the next level. I also think that, if you're thinking about selling your business, and I always tell my clients and people in WPO, if you're thinking about selling your business, you need like a 3 to 5 year runway. It usually doesn't happen overnight. You need to plan for that. You need to make sure that you have your financial statements in order, that you have a good accounting firm. You might need to revamp your employee handbook. You may need to look at some of your practices, whatever the case may be. WPO has been very, very helpful to members who are selling their businesses, because that's also very tricky. And we actually have a member in Bliss's chapter who just sold her business and is going to be talking about the process at our chapter meeting tomorrow night, which I'm sorry you won't be at Bliss, but we'll fill you in.
I know. I want to hear about it. So I'm very interested to hear about it. Yeah.
It's always so interesting. I've had several members over the 10 years who've sold their businesses, and it's lots of ups and downs and roller coasters and lots of lessons to be learned. So it's not only keeping your business going and, in fact, increasing your level of success, but it's also exiting your business. And what I really love, and I think I bring to the table, is my work with my clients about legacy. Like, what's the point of all this? I mean, most of my members are way beyond like putting a roof over their head and feeding their children. So you're building this business. What's the point? What is your aspiration? What is your dream? Where do you want this to go? Is it going to be a family business, or do you want to bring your children into the business? And then how do you deal with that? Succession planning. That's a lot of what I do as a financial advisor. And I haven't done as much of that in our chapter, but I think that's a very important topic. And then, of course, if you have charitable intent, it kind of feeds into philanthropy. You're going to sell your business. You're going to get this windfall. Is it all going to be for you and your loved ones? Or are you interested in horses or supporting,
something? Right.
Something.
Yeah.
And how do you go about doing that in a meaningful way? And while we're on that topic, on the estate planning side, if you're going to sell your business, there's a lot of ways to structure it so that it's done in the most tax efficient and just the smartest way possible to kind of retain as much as you can from the proceeds from the sale. So there's so many different elements. And I think, what I love is peeling back all the layers of the onion. You can't just put the shingle out for sale. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
If you want to do it really well, you have to put a lot of time and thought and getting the team. And by the way, on the subject of selling your business, how many investment bankers are out there who want to help businesses that are typical WPO size businesses to sell? Not that many. They want the big deals. Mm-hmm. They want the really big deals. So it's really hard to just put your team together. So
so many parts to that. Yeah. Just so many ins and outs.
Wow. Well, and it's far beyond just a Google.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It goes back to the trust.
Yeah. Right.
And I think when you're in a chapter, you automatically know that the other chapter members have been vetted. Not everyone's going to be your best friend. You're going to click with some people more than others. But I think that most of my WPO members have really made some very genuine, long-lasting friendships. And even though there's a no pitch rule, we don't solicit business from each other. I know that a lot of members are doing business with other members because they know them, they trust them, they like them, they feel comfortable with them.
I see that in my chapter. A lot more now than before when I was in it before. And that's kind of nice. I mean, you can,
That's very nice.
just support each other, which is really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Vicki, thank you so much for telling us the whole story about the Women's Presidents Organization and how people can get more information. We really appreciate it. So fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Vicki.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you. And again, if there's any one out there listening who wants to talk further, I'm sure, Bliss, they can reach out to you and you can refer them to me, or they can just go on the website and there's a contact button. They can just say, I'm interested in this organization, and they will be directed to the right chapter chair wherever they are around the country or the world.
Amazing.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vicki. And I'll miss you tomorrow, but I'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Okay.
Great. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that's it. That's your group.
Yeah. And you know what? I think groups are, they can be successful, but I think it has a lot to do with the leadership. And that's where Vicki has been, so amazing in leading our group. She always astounds me just how she can get everybody back on track, make sure that the meetings are meaningful and that everybody has a voice.
Yeah.
So it's really great.
Awesome.
I feel really honored to be a part of it.
That's really great.
Really cool.
Well, we hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about women in business and opportunities for those who are owners of their businesses. And if you need more information, you can reach us at riskybusiness@coveragequeens.com. And as always, we welcome your ideas and thoughts and comments. So please get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.